to get it in. Mitchell in the corner, can't hit, and Dallas hangs on. 81-80, the final.
Aliyah Boston walked off the court visibly frustrated, and it was clear why. The Indiana Fever had battled back from a 17-point deficit, missing star rookie Caitlin Clark and two key guards, only to see victory slip away in the final seconds.
I think the physicality level was a little bit different on both sides of the ball, and but for us, really, I think it's got to be our focus.
Kelsey Mitchell scored 24 while running the offense out of position, and a furious 19-3 run even gave Indiana a 1-point lead in the final minute. With 11.7 seconds left, trailing 80-81, Coach Stephanie White opted not to call timeout, hoping to catch Dallas off guard.
You know, I think there's a double standard in how people get their calls. I think Kelsey Mitchell, number one, is held or chucked on every freaking possession and never gets a call off the ball.
Mitchell drove but was swarmed, forcing a tough runner that hit the side of the backboard. White finally called timeout with 1.7 seconds left too late. A desperation shot missed, sealing the loss. Afterward, White admitted she should have called timeout sooner, a rare public self-critique. For a team fighting for playoff seeding, that split-second hesitation felt crushing.
Consistent in what we're asking for, and I didn't feel like it was consistent, especially for those two. I think you could call a foul every time down the floor for those two.
Just days before tip-off, Indiana lost its entire point guard rotation. Sydney Colson tore her ACL, Aari McDonald broke her foot, and star rookie Caitlin Clark was already out with a groin injury. Coach Stephanie White called it plain. All of our point guards are injured. The team vowed to adopt a next woman up mentality. Indiana signed veteran Odyssey Sims, but with only a day to prepare, she struggled in her debut. That forced top scorer Kelsey Mitchell, naturally a shooting guard, into the lead guard role, tasked with running the offense, handling pressure, and still carrying the scoring load. Without a steady ball handler, Indiana's offense started to fall apart. 17 turnovers turned into 27 points for Dallas, more than a third of the Wings' total. The full court pressure wore Kelsey Mitchell down, forcing rushed decisions and risky passes. The breaking point came late in the third quarter, when Dallas went on a 19-0 run fueled by Fever mistakes. Forward Chloe Bibby admitted, "The 17 turnovers got us there." Coach Stephanie White said they abandoned their sets and went one-on-one exactly when they're least successful. Still, despite the chaos and constant pressure, Indiana almost pulled it off thanks to one player who refused to quit. Kelsey Mitchell faced the challenge head-on and nearly dragged Indiana to a stunning win. Her stat line was impressive. 24 points on 7 of 1-5 shooting, 4 of 7 from deep, and 6 rebounds. But those numbers barely capture the grind. Every possession ran through her. She broke Dallas's press, navigated traps, and still found the energy to attack the basket or launch from deep. You could see the fatigue, an errant pass here, a rushed turnover there, but each mistake was followed by more fight. In the fourth quarter, she buried a long-range three that ignited the crowd and signaled her teammates to lock in on defense. Moments later, she threaded a perfect bounce pass to Aliyah Boston for an easy layup, pure point guard execution. That's leadership, not just scoring. Sophie Cunningham matched that intensity on defense, later venting frustration over what she saw as favorable whistles for Dallas's rookie star, Paige Buchers. Mitchell kept coming, driving left for tough layups, hitting clutch jumpers, and pushing the pace at every chance. She fueled a 19-3 run that cut a 17-point deficit to 1, capping it with a contested bucket in the lane with 33.4 seconds left. After the game, she admitted, "We shouldn't have even been in that position, but I thought we got a pretty good look at the end. It wasn't sustainable. One player carrying this much load never is, but on this night, Mitchell's endurance and willpower were unforgettable." As she walked off, pride and disappointment mixed. She had left it all on the floor. Mitchell may have been the star, but she didn't stage the comeback alone. Several role players stepped up in huge moments, and their impact went far beyond the box score. Sophie Cunningham poured in 14 points on 5 of 1-0 shooting, including 2 clutch threes. Her energy was contagious, diving for loose balls, taking charges, and firing up the crowd after big plays. She admitted the offense flowed better in the fourth once they looked after the ball and matched Dallas's physicality. Chloe Bibby played just 12 minutes but scored 11 points, hitting all 3 of her threes. Each make came when Indiana desperately needed a spark, including a corner triple that halted a Dallas run and forced an untimely timeout. Natasha Howard delivered a 12-point, 12-rebound double-double with 3 blocks, protecting the paint and erasing Dallas layups. Her veteran presence steadied a young Fever lineup and kept the Wings from dominating inside. Aliyah Boston had 14 points in a bruising matchup, battling through heavy contact. Even on a quieter scoring night, she drew multiple defenders, opened up the perimeter, and stayed composed to finish tough shots in traffic. Lexi Hall didn't score, but she hounded Dallas rookie star Paige Buchers into a 6 of 19 shooting night. Her defensive pressure was key to holding the Wings to 1 field goal in the final 6.5 minutes. Indiana's furious rally outscoring Dallas 25-4 at one stage in the fourth was truly a collective effort. That's what made the ending so painful. They had fought through every obstacle and earned a shot to win, only to see it slip away in the blink of an eye. Let's rewind those final seconds. After Mitchell's bucket cut the deficit to 1, Dallas missed a jumper, and Indiana grabbed the rebound with the clock ticking down. Coach Stephanie White faced a choice call timeout immediately to advance the ball and draw up a play, or let her players attack in transition to catch Dallas off guard. She chose to let them play. "We'd been good in transition," she explained, noting they were in the bonus and could draw a foul. For a moment, it looked promising, but the initial push stalled. "When we started dribbling sideways, I probably should have used it at the 3-second mark," White admitted. Instead, she called timeout with just 1.7 seconds left. Too late. The Fever's only option was a deep corner catch and shoot. Mitchell's turnaround 3 smacked off the side of the backboard. Game over. It's the eternal coaching dilemma if the no timeout works. It's genius. When it doesn't, it's second-guessed forever. White owned it. "I wanted us to push, but I didn't like that result." She thought Mitchell might have a driving lane, but it closed quickly. What stings most is how hard Indiana fought to get there. They'd erased a 17-point deficit with near-perfect execution in the fourth. "We shouldn't have been in that position. The 17 turnovers got us there," White said. Still, they were right there with a chance to win. In a playoff race this tight, that missed moment, those lost seconds will linger. While the final seconds drew the most attention, they weren't the only source of frustration for Indiana. Officiating became a major subplot, with several calls and non-calls leaving the Fever convinced there was a double standard against their stars. By night's end, the normally composed Aliyah Boston was visibly angry. Sophie Cunningham had blurted an expletive on the court, and even injured Caitlin Clark was clapping back at a referee from the bench. One flashpoint came in the fourth quarter, when Boston was whistled for a foul despite being pinned by Dallas center Lee Ueru. Indiana challenged, expecting a reversal, but the call stood, giving Ueru an and-one and costing the Fever a timeout they'd need later. Another heated moment saw Cunningham shoved by Paige Buchers, only for Sophie to be called for blocking. On replay, the crowd saw the shove, but the whistle had already gone against Indiana. Later, Cunningham was assessed a flagrant one for a landing space foul on Buchers. The Fever's gripe? Similar contact from Buchers earlier hadn't been flagged, and Mitchell didn't get a call on a comparable jumper. After the game, Cunningham said, "Those refs were giving every freaking whistle last night. You literally couldn't touch her," stressing she wanted consistency, not favoritism. Coach Stephanie White echoed that sentiment, calling Boston the worst officiated post player in the league, and arguing that if officials allow physical play, it should be equal on both ends. Statistically, Indiana shot more free throws than Dallas, but the Fever felt the timing and nature of the calls hurt them most. By the buzzer, emotions boiled over. Boston confronted officials, Clark clapped pointedly toward one ref, and Cunningham later apologized for her language but not her message. For Indiana, it wasn't just a loss. It was a night where they felt the whistle wasn't on their side. In the locker room afterward, Aliyah Boston's comment to reporters was brief but telling, "We need better focus." Those 4 words carried a double meaning. On one hand, Boston was surely referring to the Fever's own lapses, the lack of focus that led to sloppy turnovers and defensive breakdowns in the first and third quarters. She's a team leader, even as a rookie, and she wanted to put the onus on the players to control what they can control, making sure we're connected in the right places for passes, being more conscious of taking care of the ball, as she elaborated. In other words, focus on our execution. Yet, given all the chaos with the refs, one could also read Boston's statement as a bit of thinly veiled commentary. Perhaps a suggestion that the officials needed to be more focused too. Boston is too savvy to openly criticize the refs like her coach, and Cunningham did She's only a rookie, and likely not looking to draw a fine, but the timing of her remark was interesting. It came right amid the discussion of physicality being called different on both ends. Either way, focus will indeed be the key for Indiana moving forward, because the stakes have only gotten higher. This was a game the Fever were expected to win. Dallas came in as one of the league's bottom 3 teams at 8-24, more likely to be thinking about draft lottery balls than playoff pushes. Indiana needed this win to stabilize their playoff positioning. Instead, the loss dropped the Fever to 18-15, sliding them down to 6th place in a tight Eastern Conference race. The difference between a win and loss here could be the difference between a comfortable playoff seed or fighting for life in the final games of the season. The disappointment among fans was palpable. Some frustrated supporters even took to social media calling for Coach White's job after this game, blaming her for the late-game mismanagement. But let's add some perspective. Stephanie White has been dealt a very tough hand in her first year back coaching in Indiana. Her roster has been shredded by injuries to key players, yet she's kept this team competitive and in the playoff picture. Before the season, few expected the Fever, who had the league's worst record in 2022 and 2023, to be above .500 this late in the year. Under White, the team has shown clear growth, better defensive tenacity, and, as we saw, a never-say-die attitude that has led to some thrilling comebacks. One narrow loss doesn't erase that progress. The Fever front office and players have continually voiced support for White, praising the resilience and culture she's building. Now, how Indiana responds will define their season. Do they let this gut-punch loss send them into a spiral, or do they use it as fuel, an us against the world rallying cry? The schedule isn't waiting for them to lick their wounds. The Fever have another game in just a couple days against the Washington Mystics, a team chasing them in the standings. Every remaining game matters in the playoff hunt. The hope in Indiana is that Caitlin Clark, the electric rookie who was averaging around 18 points and 6 assists before her injury, will be back in the lineup within the next few weeks, perhaps even before the postseason. Officially, there's no firm timetable, but Clark has been ramping up her rehab activities, and the team is optimistic she could return by season's end if all goes well. Getting her back, even at, say, 80 to 90%, would be a massive boost to a Fever squad that's been surviving on heart and hustle. Imagine adding one of the most dynamic playmakers in the game to this group. Right as playoffs begin, that's the silver lining the Fever are holding on to. As the dust settles, Indiana will try to take the positives and learn from the negatives. The WNBA season is a grind, and every team hits adversity. The Fever have had more than their fair share. But if there's one thing they've shown, it's that they won't quit. I continue to be proud of the grit and toughness and resilience of this group, White said. That mentality will be crucial in the games ahead. So, what's your take on all this? Should Coach White have called that timeout earlier instead of letting the last possession play out in transition? And do you think the officiating issues we saw the Boston no call and the Cunningham versus Bucher saga point to a bigger league-wide problem, or was it just a rough night for the refs? The Fever will have to put this one behind them quickly, but it's a game that will be remembered for a long time by Indiana fans. One thing is for sure, if and when Caitlin Clark makes it back onto the court, the entire feel of this Fever team will change. Until then, they'll need to dig deep and maintain that focus Boston talked about. Comment down below what you think was the biggest factor in this loss and how the Fever can bounce back. If you enjoyed this in-depth breakdown, be sure to like this video and subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on future analysis. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.